Joining me is the country's top foreign affairs writer, Greg Sheridan, the Australian newspaper. Greg, 2 assassination attempts in this already crazy election. What does this say about America and about American politics?
Well, Andrew, this is a very grave moment in American life. And I think we can add to these 2 attempts the foiled Iranian plot to assassinate Trump as well. The American intelligence agencies revealed that, and a Pakistani was arrested, allegedly acting on behalf of the Iranians in the early stages of that plot. I think it's wrong to say Democratic politicians are responsible for extremists if they're just engaging in robust criticism. But the Democrats routinely lie about Trump, and I have no particular brief for Trump at all, a lot of criticisms of him, but they lie about Trump in a very extreme fashion. For example, Kamala Harris said that Trump had said if he loses the election, there will be a bloodbath. And most people would think that meant Trump said there'll be killings and bloodlettings and so on. What Trump said was there'd be a bloodbath in the auto industry. So she is intentionally, dishonestly saying Trump threatened killings when he didn't. She also said he praised neo-Nazis in Charlottesville as very fine people. He didn't. He condemned the neo-Nazis, but said on both sides of the demonstration about historic statues in the South, there were very fine people. Now, you tend to let this go. You know, you don't have any great personal sympathy for Trump, and you tend to let it go. But they lie about Trump in such an extreme fashion, they're such barefaced lies, that there are 2 conclusions out of it. One, they are no better and probably worse than Trump himself in producing polarisation and fever pitch in American society. And 2, this has got to contribute to an atmosphere, a fervid, intense atmosphere in which some deranged people come to the conclusion that America would just be better off without Trump. So I think the anti-Trump rhetoric of the Democrats, you can't say that there's a direct, obvious causal link, but it's extremely irresponsible and very, very reprehensible in my view.
I note that the 2 moderators of that debate where Kamala Harris told those lies about Donald Trump and a whole bunch of others didn't fact-check her once, while they fact-checked Trump within an inch of his life. I mean, the bias was extraordinary. But talking about this bias, yeah, I see that MSNBC's default reaction today was to somehow blame Donald Trump and his own rhetoric for yet another person trying to kill him. Have a look at this.
Do you expect there to be calls from within the Trump campaign to do that? Do you expect to hear anything from the Trump campaign about toning down the rhetoric, toning down the violence?
Honestly, Greg, it seems like the leftist media have got in their heads that the only violent people in the world are right-wingers, and if violence happens, and even left-wingers did it, it's still the right's fault. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, so, Trump has done a lot of, in my view, reprehensible things and said a lot of foolish things and extreme things. But that doesn't give you a right in denouncing Trump to go even worse than he has gone. So people, the Democrats tell lie after lie after lie about Trump and present him, as they did at the National Convention, as the greatest threat to democracy in American history. They paint him as the author of American fascism, as an extremist, as a dictator, as the end of democracy. And then someone is violent towards Trump and they say that's all Trump's fault. So there's no responsibility on the Democrat side at all. And sadly, the media in America is failing America, not only by its double standards, but, for example, those ABC debate moderators, who I thought were absolutely reprehensible, a disgrace to the journalistic profession, an utter disgrace. They didn't mention the fact that this year the US budget deficit will be $2 trillion. Interest payments are already greater than the defence budget. You might think that would be an issue worth mentioning, instead of which they wanted to afford Harris every opportunity to condemn Trump's rhetoric, and they wanted to force Trump to admit that he'd said things he should apologise for.
And Greg, just one last thing about this assassination attempt. You're quite right. I mean, this guy, look at his social media posts, it's unhinged, but he's repeating all the attack lines on Trump. It's like the Democrats saying, what, you mean you took them seriously? Oh, heaven forbid.
Yeah.
You know. Meanwhile, you've actually got this guy being a real supporter of Ukraine, as am I, but I just wonder how this is going to play to the Trump far-right base that thinks Ukraine is evil and here's this guy sent to kill, or I don't know how they would phrase it.
Yeah, it's extremely obnoxious. I mean, I've got a column about this in tomorrow's paper. Sadly, now there are deranged people on the left, deranged people on the right, and people who are just free-floating deranged, waiting to find a cause to fixate on. Now, all political leaders, I think, have a responsibility to speak in a decent manner. Trump often doesn't do that. That's true. But all of these Democrats who don't use Trump's vulgar language are nonetheless promoting their own version of extremism. You know, one of the most brilliant insights I ever heard into democratic politics came from Kim Beazley, who once remarked, it takes a good deal of apathy to run a successful democracy. You want people to regard their religion as their religion and their politics as their politics. You want sport to be on the front page of the newspapers. And when everything becomes a fervid moral crusade, and for the left of American politics, you know, left-wing causes are their new religion. But, I mean, the right is equally as bad. You will get a horrible, breakdown of basic apprehension of reality. People can't understand reality. I mean, this guy's derangement has nothing to do with Ukraine, but you're quite right. This will feed into, swamplands on the far right, on social media, and it'll become a plot by Ukraine amongst some people. This is really a tragic moment in American life.
It is so depressing. It is. Look, you've said it. Greg Sheridan, thank you so much indeed for your time.